श्री श्री रास बिहारिणी जी की जय। श्री वल्लभाधीश की जय। सब वैष्णवों को जय श्री कृष्ण. Today sees the 55th day of our readings, Braj Kishori Seva Trust and Sri Hari Rai Ji ki Bade Shiksha Patr. We are on letter 20 and verse 12. This path of grace is characterized by the gradual ascension of desire to see Sri Krishna. From the fire of devotion appears the sentiment of pining and separation from him. Tika 12. In this path of grace, the more you involve yourself in the Lord, the more your burning desire to see him will gradually increase. When this fire burns within you, your impurities disappear and you gain perfect humility. Then, when the higher kind of divine sentiment, union with him, is considered inferior to the experience of separation from him, is engendered in your heart and you experience love for the Lord in the same way as the gopis, then this is called Manasi Seva. It spontaneously fills your heart and mind, which is the superior way. The mood of love of the gopis is a fire, and when this mood comes into your heart, know that Sri Acharya Ji is reigning there because his form is a fire of love for the Lord. The mood of the love of the gopis is a fire, and when this mood comes into your heart, know that Sri Acharya Ji is reigning there because his form is the fire of love for the Lord. Verses 13, 14 and 15. As described above, this fire of separation most certainly incinerates a mass of impurities, and this characterizes the path of grace. If you do not have the great fortune to be established on this path and are lacking in faith, then your destiny is uncertain. Therefore, if you experience in your heart, either through careful listening or great good fortune, this aforesaid fire of separation, then cherish it for as long as you live. Never let your mind be swayed by the superficially sweet speech of those of little knowledge. Tika. Even a tiny experience of this fire of separation can destroy all your faults, and this is the speciality of the path of grace. This path emulates the love of the gopis. Less fortunate souls do not have this faith, and without it you cannot attain the perfect reward of the path of grace. That's Tika 13. The fate of those who have no faith in the path is uncertain, for an embodied soul's way is obstructed by faithlessness. Firstly, faithlessness gives rise to unfounded imaginings in the mind that prevent realization of the fruit of this path. Secondly, those engaged in the path of knowledge and action listen to those who speak against the way of love, and simply cannot see what is this path of grace. Their company is obstructive because they criticize the path and thus damage your faith. Thirdly, the rewards of the path of grace are superior and are not attained by those unfortunate souls who are inwardly swayed towards the path of lawful limitations and who just cannot surrender to the way of grace. They simply do not have faith. Fourthly, their hearts are swayed by the waves of worldly and scriptural attachments. They lose faith and perform contrary actions. Fifthly, they lose faith due to keeping the company of those whose face is turned away from the Lord. Faithlessness occurs in these 5 ways, and the faithless cannot realize the reward of the path of grace. In these various ways described here, faithlessness takes over the heart. It is a huge obstacle for an embodied soul. Bad company extinguishes the fire of love, just as water extinguishes fire. People with little knowledge may speak sweet-sounding words, but don't let them sway your mind. They criticize due to ignorance and have no manners, so do not ever associate with them. Tikas 14 and 15. Verse 16. Without a doubt, the association which is sought through a decision tempered by wisdom and patience, etc., can perfect your life, so why make the mistaken choice of any other path which teaches the opposite values? Tika. Know this for sure. The association of good devotees leads to the experience of divine love. In the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Shaunakji states, Heaven and liberation offer no match to a single moment's association with a devotee of the Lord, which is the greatest blessing a human may receive. In the 11th canto, the Lord himself states, O Uddhav, neither yoga, nor spiritual knowledge, nor righteousness, nor self-study, nor austerities, nor renunciation, nor charitable acts, nor offerings, nor fasts, nor sacrifices, nor study of the Vedas, nor pilgrimage, nor moral codes, nor observances can impress or captivate my heart. as much as the company of devotees, which annihilates all other forms of bad association. From such statements it is clear that good association is crucially important for an embodied soul, and therefore a devotee on the path of grace should definitely keep good association. A Vaishnava should never make the mistake of being around those who oppose the path's principles and should always avoid such company. Verse 17. Of these, the bewildered are very ignorant, and their company is a definite hindrance. Everywhere and at every moment establish yourself solely in good association. A bewildered soul lacks faith in this path of grace and is therefore classed as a great fool and very ignorant. The company of such idiots is a hindrance. Therefore keep the association exclusively of those grace-filled pure devotees, thereby avoiding bad company. In his Navaratna or 9 Jewels treatise, Sri Acharyaji has told us, remember your surrender to the Lord in the company of pure devotees. Recall your dedication to the Lord in the company of such great devotees. This is good association which nourishes your love for the Lord, and thus should always be attended to by all devotees of the path of grace. Verse 18. Those with whom you should associate should be established in service to the Lord, of good thought and deed, following the righteous path, and who love to speak and act without contradiction. Tika 18. A Vaishnava of the path of grace surrenders to the Lord through the grace of Sri Vallabhacharya and serves the Lord according to the ways established in this path. This kind of dignified and proper behaviour is their first consideration, and with this emphasis on pious behaviour and thought, they fulfil the rituals, keeping the rules of cleansing, serving as a gopi, purity, classification of foodstuffs according to specific Vedic rules, distinguishing between offered and unoffered articles, and rules governing the remains of a meal or food touched by one's mouth, etc., and are always keen to maintain these observances and never fall into sinful ways. Their speech never opposes the path, and they listen attentively to teachings which strictly follows the path. They also have a natural love in their hearts for the appropriate way of behaviour and service according to the path of grace. Verse 19. Keep the association of pure devotees who have full faith in Sri Acharyaji's words and treatises, Nibandha, Sri Subodhiniji, Shodash Granth, etc., and who are always full of love. Avoid any kind of company. Tika. Have full faith in Sri Acharyaji's teachings and listen to the words of his books. Adhere to the ways of action and feeling described therein. Keep the company of those devotees who follow Sri Acharyaji's words implicitly and have full faith in them. Forget all other company. When you meet such a devotee, continue to associate with them. If you cannot, then, renouncing all other company, worship according to the teachings of the path of grace without serving and remembering the Lord. If you cannot, then renouncing all other company, worship according to the teachings of the path of grace about serving and remembering the Lord. You really must avoid the company of others. If you live in this way, you will receive the fruit of the path of grace by Sri Acharyaji's grace-filled blessing. Thus concludes letter 20 and our reading for today. We will continue tomorrow with letter 21, which has 10 verses, the subject matter being protecting your love for the Lord. Shri Vallabhadish ki jai, aaj ke anand ki jai, sab Vaishnavon ko sadar, sab prem, sadenya, sanand, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.